Welcome to Movie Heaven, Movie Hell with me, Simon Aitken, and
I'm Keith Eyles, and we are both independent filmmakers who enjoy discussing movies and associated entertainment. And for this bonus Star Wars episode, to coincide with the home media release of The Last Jedi, we are really pleased to have a panel of guests from both sides of the Atlantic. So over here in the UK, we are joined by returning guest and writer Antonia McGuire. Hi, Antonia.
Hiya.
Welcome back. And in the US, we have returning guest filmmaker James Cheshire. Welcome, James.
Hello, hello.
Good to have you back. And for the first time on this podcast, I'm really pleased to welcome a good buddy of mine, filmmaker, movie aficionado, and all-round good guy, Dan Tomeu. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad I can make it.
I said I'd get you on at some point, yeah? Now, obviously, Antonia and James have been on the podcast before on other Star Wars episodes that we've done. But Dan, for our listeners, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and your relationship to the mighty franchise?
I'm a true-born Floridian. I currently work for a place here in Orlando that's run by a very large mouse, and for them I do video production. So I am paid to do this as a career. I did it once on the production side, doing the editing and shooting, but now I'm more on the management side. So I've kind of seen both sides of it now. And Star Wars to me has been a part of my life since I was 4 years old, since I first saw it in 1977. So it's courses through my veins every day.
Yes, as it does, and we all went to the same film school together, and if I remember right, we all bonded over Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to age you guys or myself, but you realise it's been 22 years this summer since we did that first production.
At the time, it was kind of weird. You were hanging out with me.
Hey, you could get arrested for that. So, we're here to discuss The Last Jedi, which is, as part of the franchise, it's fair to say it's been quite a divisive film in terms of, if you want to believe what you hear online and out there in the media. I mean, I think it's fair to say, to start with, obviously with the original trilogy and with the prequel trilogy to a certain extent, we obviously didn't have the sort of social media. What we read were reviews from critics and alike. But now, obviously everybody is a reviewer, and the general consensus has been quite vocal out there about this. So it's interesting. I think we could get into some interesting discussion here.
Indeed.
yes. Well, seeming as this is the third time we're talking about it. I mean, I must admit, I didn't think we were going to go back to this well. I thought we were done with Star Wars for a while.
Oh, you're never done with Star Wars, come on, man. There's always something going on.
This is true.
Or maybe until the Solo movie came out.
Well, no doubt we'll talk about that as well when it comes out. But it has had such an impact on all of us from an early age. So it's kind of burnt into our blood, isn't it? So But who wants to kick off then about The Last Jedi?
Who wants the first bullet?
Can I jump in, just because since I haven't been on any of these previously, I want to share my stance, since I know that's very controversial. That way we know who's on whose side.
Okay.
Oh, this is not a rebellion.
Isn't it?
It really, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, this particular one really seems to have created that very divisive, this side versus that side experience. But I don't know why. I will say that I am one that does like the film, The Last Jedi. I'm a fan.
Excellent.
I saw it many times, and I enjoyed it every time. And I never really quite understood the hate for it. I mean, I read, I saw the videos and read the articles and that whole part, but I never. It just never struck me that way. In fact, it almost like somewhere in the middle of, I saw it a few times, and somewhere in the middle of those times, I was starting to second guess myself. Like, am I just not seeing something here? Is there something? Because I'm certainly one of those that was firmly in the camp of, hating the prequels, and I wasn't even entirely in love with The Force Awakens, honestly. It grew on me, but the first time it did not blow me away the first time I saw it. And I was actually kind of disappointed. James and I saw it together, actually. And we came out of there with just scratching our heads, trying to figure out what we had just seen. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I understand, the logic of what people say and why they don't like it, but I just thought it was a good time.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat as you, and it is that weird thing where you see everybody online going, "Oh, it's just terrible. It's the worst thing. How could they do this to Star Wars?" And I've seen it 3 times, and I've loved it each time. It gets better.
But I found
Exactly.
watching the videos of the people that make the videos that are disliking it, there are a certain type of people that their videos are just hatred, or people that are so stuck on the actual originals they can't go past them. There is a certain type of person that don't like them, but they really grasp at straws for disliking it. I mean, there's a lot to like about it, but I have issues with it, but that's just me being a purist. I mean, I actually really like the film, but there's so many things, like when you look at the deleted scenes, like that would have worked so well, and you would have watched it more with more understanding. So it's a good film, but everyone's all got their issues with it, but the major issues of it, I really don't get. It's just people love to hate.
Has anyone noticed that? I don't know if you're, because when the video release, as it got closer, there started to be more videos about it again, and it seems like there's been a kind of a turn, and now they're seeing videos about how brilliant it is and how it explains space travel in the Star Wars universe and all these different kind of positive things. And in the last month or so, I've noticed these are popping up more and more. This kind of retconning their ideas of whether they liked it or not,
Well, I think there's been an initial reaction to it. I think I'm not quite sure what people were expecting. I mean,
There's always going to be a high expectation because you want it to be better.
Yeah.
And because the films it's up against and what you want it to be, because we couldn't trust George Lucas much anymore because he wasn't really hitting the marks. So now you kind of got this higher expectation because, people just want it to be amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I don't know what people were expecting from. I mean, if it had been Empire Strikes Back, everybody would have been complaining, "Oh, they're just doing the same." I mean, I can understand why people were saying that Force Awakens was, a repeat of A New Hope, but I think partly that was just to say, from the studio's point to the audience, look. You're back in the Star Wars universe, this isn't the prequels. And at the end of it, I was like, well, let's see. I hope the next film they're going to go their own way, and they did. And that's one of the things I really like about it.
Well, it's the first film I know of where they've ended the first film and gone straight into the second film. There's not much gap.
Yeah.
Which is that's really cool. I mean, I'm hard pressed to find anything that's ever done that before. But I think that's what shocked a lot of people, because there was no progression for the characters, but then there was a hell of a lot of progression in a short space of time for the characters.
Yeah.
Which I think that is a testament to Rian Johnson, because he's actually said he wanted to do exactly the opposite of what everyone expected, and he bloody well did that.
Nailed it.
What about you, James? You're keeping quite quiet there.
Oh, well, I was letting the people I haven't interacted with yet get some words in. I haven't. I've come back and watched clips. Ever since I saw it for the first time, I kept expecting to, at some point, go back and see it. But every time I have an opportunity, it's like, man, I could do that, or I could do anything else in the world, and anything else usually wins. But I mean, one thing, from the clips and ruminating on it some, it feels like I don't know like who the main character is supposed to be, because it feels like Rey isn't particularly the main character, because she's doing stuff, like she's taking these books, the Jedi books, but we never see her do this, so she's doing it from somebody else's perspective.
Well, she does that to make sure trying to get Luke Skywalker to follow her.
Well, I know why she does it, but we're seeing it. We're not seeing it from her perspective. We're seeing it from, somebody else's perspective.
I actually read this somewhere. Did she do it or did Yoda do it? Because it's one of these sort of things. Is that little Force ghost about, and he's being cheeky.
Oh, well, I mean, maybe we'll find out. But and there's another case where when she wakes up in the or when Kylo wakes up and she's gone with the lightsaber, that's another thing. We're seeing her actions from a different perspective, and it reminds me of Dan. What was the Battlestar Galactica, that first one we didn't care for, where all the action took place off screen?
Oh yeah,
so it feels like it feels like these moments of Rey are happening off screen. It's like, well, is it her movie? Is it Kylo's movie? What character are we supposed to be focused on?
They're equal protagonists in the whole storyline. Their role in the film story is that they're as evil as he's the evil part and she's the good part, but they equalise each other. They're like a yin and yang thing.
Yeah,
and that's what has always been said by J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson.
It seems that the focus to me seems off a bit.
Yeah, we can say the same for like Empire Strikes Back and like Return of the Jedi. Obviously Luke was the main protagonist, but then he had everyone else, and if you count up the screen time they shared, there wasn't a fair amount that it was shared out amongst. Like Return of the Jedi, you didn't see Luke Skywalker 15-20 minutes, did you? Then he appears, and that's unusual.
Oh
yeah. So I mean, it's just the way they're playing it out. I mean, it is a film that it is a trilogy, and I'm waiting for the last one to sort of fulfill what it's meant to be, which would be interesting. But
yeah, but as Simon and Keith know, one of my original problems with this was I felt JJ kind of didn't set him up with much to work with. As you recall, I said, what the hell is he going to possibly do when he gets that lightsaber? I wanted to go back and see if I actually said, watch him throw it over his shoulder or something. But I did make the point, like, what the hell is he possibly going to do with this thing? It's a dumb idea. And with their parents, the whole parent thing, I said, is there really a satisfactory answer? Did Han and Leia send her away and keep Kylo? Is it Luke's, but he sent her away and trained his nephew? It's Obi-Wan's, and if it is, who the hell he knew he even had a kid in the first place to have a grandkid? So that just seemed like a storyline that was almost doomed to start with. So
if it is true about her parentage from the second film, what Kylo Ren says to her, and he's very manipulative, but then do we need to know much about her parents? Like, we didn't know Leia was his sister.
I think the whole point was just pointless in the first place.
Well, yeah, it was JJ with his mystery box. He loves setting up little mysteries, and that was one. And so I think that's, speaking of other people, why they were disappointed was that, this mystery was set up and they were like, oh, who could it be? Who could it be? And then in the second film it goes, well, she's just a normal person. She's just come from normal parentage. And for a lot of people, that's like, oh man, that's so disappointing. We wanted it to be she's Luke's child, Skywalker, Rey, can't you see it? But the thing is, it makes the universe so small. The fact that all these stories are all going to be about.
I mean, we saw in the prequels tons of Jedi, so I don't even know where this idea came about. Like, oh, it's a Skywalker or nothing. I mean, that whole concept just like, where did it sounds like a straw man argument, because there are tons of Jedis in the prequels, so they all die, and then all of a sudden only a Skywalker can be a Jedi. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I was going to say, I also think that there's a generational thing as far as, which generation grew up with the prequels as their series when they were young versus us who grew up with the originals. And in the originals, there was no explanation, no explanation who the Emperor was. We had no idea who that guy was.
I've made that point before, you just knew that he was a bad guy.
He's a bad guy, exactly. And then, parents weren't really a thing that we worried about until they became a thing, but it wasn't like we were dying to know who the parents were until they told us. It wasn't like the kids were twins or, until we found out that Darth Vader was the father. And even then we weren't convinced. I mean, it's like maybe he's just lying to him or something like that, an Empire. And I remember reading an article where George Lucas was told by a child psychologist that he had to, in Return of the Jedi, say definitively that Vader was his father, or else kids wouldn't believe it. I guess because kids would just think, oh, he's just being bad, he's lying. So he had to have that line specifically in there, yes, Vader's your father, so that kids would understand it. But then if you look into the prequels, now the prequels explain everything and go and give you all kinds of backstory and, not in a great way, obviously, but but they do, connect all the dots, so to speak. So then that generation watching this movie is saying, hey, we're used to seeing all these little dots being connected and you're not connecting our dots. What the heck? So that's what I feel like.
Do you know anyone that actually likes the prequels?
I do, actually. I met a guy at work who said Phantom Menace is his favorite one. Phantom Menace. I wanted to strangle him right there in front of me. But when he said that, I mean, I'm sure my face completely dropped. But he had a special moment. He saw that with his dad when he was young. They took him out of school and he went to see it, and it just was a special moment in his life. And he loved it.
She's like, don't argue.
No, that's yeah. I mean, that's fair enough, I guess. I mean, we all sort of, Star Wars, as I've said on many a podcast, it was literally the first film I ever went to see at the cinema, and I had been watching this 22-inch. 425 line box in the corner of the living room with, a single, mono speaker. And then suddenly, I'm in this big auditorium with a 235:1 aspect ratio screen and Dolby stereo. And, those are the sort of things, I guess, even when you don't really understand what it is because you're too young, but you sort of can't. It's about the emotion and it's about the experience. So I kind of get that if somebody, if Phantom Menace, I feel very sorry for them if it was the first film they ever saw at the cinema. But I also kind of understand, why it might be special as a result of that. So,
we have to all admit this, and we've covered this before in the last podcast. Like, we all watched the Phantom Menace with such high hope. I mean, I took my mum to the cinema to see it, and I watched it, and I was like, one eyebrow was up and I was watching it, and then I think I watched it again on my own and went back to the cinema, and I thought, this is okay, I can deal with it. But then you see the flaws later on, and like I said before, that film, it made so much money. It's actually in the history books making so much money, but it's so bad because we all went to cinema, and that story about the guys that sat down in the cinema just see the trailer and then they walked out just to see the trailer. That's cemented in history, and I really hope that. I mean, I've got niece and nephew that actually really like the prequels, and that's kind of annoying for me, but then it's touching at the same time because it's made for kids. I mean, they do. I genuinely think Zachary, my nephew, prefers the originals, right? Because they're much cooler. Yes. But he likes the Attack of the Clones because that's when the Jedis throw down. They start, fighting, and it's really action packed. I mean,
yeah, it's just all the politics stuff, and
it goes over my head. I understand politics relatively, and that sort of stuff. But even I'm like, what Trade Federation?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It doesn't. I think George Lucas really missed the mark on so many things because. It was all left ambiguous for so long, and then he came in and he just threw it all in at once, and no one questioned him. And that's really annoying.
I saw a video where they talked about him and what stage he was in his life. So when he made the original Star Wars, he was an independent filmmaker. He was like, scruffy, go-getter trying to get his films made. By the time the prequels came along, he was the CEO of a massive company. And hence, it kind of shows. I mean, how many meetings are there in the Phantom Menace? How many people were sitting down around tables? Because that was his life at that time.
Daily life.
Negotiations won't be swift. Yes.
I have a bad
Well, and that's
feeling
the other
about this.
thing is as a hungry filmmaker, and as someone who had no proven record at the time, there's people that are going to come along and they're going to say no. They're going to say, no, you can't do that. We can't spin that. We can't do this. That idea is not, like he has his ideas, but somebody's still there. Some producer or somebody as a gatekeeper saying, no, we're not doing that. But then once it becomes the prequels and it's all him, everyone's just a bunch of yes men, and just running around going, yes, sir, Mr. Lucas. Yes, yes, yes. Let's have this guy with floppy ears. He'll be hilarious. And that.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of one of my theories, actually. I always say about Star Wars. I mean, for me, New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, I can never sort of make up my mind which one I love more because I love them both greatly. And, obviously, I always think the big unsung hero is Gary Kurtz, because Gary Kurtz produced those two films and, from what I understand, challenged Lucas about quite a lot of things and had very different ideas about where Return or Revenge of the Jedi, as it was then, should go, hence why he wasn't involved in that project. And I've always thought that shows because, I've always had, much as I still love Jedi because I was a kid, but, I have various issues with that. And, when we had Rick McCallum on the prequels, he was a bit like you've just described, a yes man. And, George had absolutely 100% creative control over everything, which, is good for some things. I never want to slag George because he created, he made me the person I am today. But at the same time, he has made some bad choices as well, as we all agree, I think. So, but I always have that theory about, the producer has a lot to do with it, and Gary Kurtz for sure.
I will say this though, you do realise from like you do sort of see from the new ones they're making, like The Force Awakens, everyone that's making all the new Star Wars, they're major fans and they really want to protect the mythology and the history. Like me and Simon have watched the new Rebel series, and I've watched a bit of the Clone Wars, and they really are like passionate what they do, and they're like nerds like the rest of you guys. Like not a nerd, but they really like you guys. They really want to keep the mythology alive. And they're not just in it for money. They're not doing it for their own ego. I'm not saying George Lucas did, but then it was kind of like you could see from the extra footage on the DVDs that you got for the documentaries. George Lucas, he sat back and he's talking like this, and he's really not there.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, you're George Lucas, all the mystique around it, and you're thinking, you're really not the guy I thought you were. But in this one, I'm glad they really do. Everyone is so involved with this, the new ones, that they really do have a love for it. They're super nerds.
Yeah.
No, I agree entirely with you there, Antonia. In fact, that's a really interesting point, because here's what I think, and I have quite strong views on this. I actually think Dave Filoni, who is the guy behind the Rebels series and obviously was the Clone Wars, you see, I think he should be, from a creative standpoint, running that side of Lucasfilm.
Well, the whole side.
I have every respect for Kathleen Kennedy and her career, her work with her husband Frank Marshall, and all the work she's done for Spielberg, etc. But I've seen her interviewed a few times, and what I don't get from her is the only comparison I can kind of give it is, everybody thinks that it's a general consensus that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, another Disney property, is quite consistent and generally really good. The films and shows and everything that they're putting out. And when you listen to Kevin Feige, that guy is a total comic fanboy.
He's
and
a bona fide
obviously
nerd. We know that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Dave Filoni is that kind of bona fide nerd as well. And, when it comes to Star Wars. And I honestly think that, we know he does Rebels and he's done a great job of that. I wish he was more involved in the live action side of the Star Wars franchise.
I really like Kathleen Kennedy. Like, it wasn't until today, because Simon was saying that, and he mentioned someone might bring up that they're anti her. But I was like, what? Why? And you look at what she's done. Fair enough, she's not the forefront of anything, and she's actually never wanted to be. Like, I watched an interview, and she's saying she never wanted to be in the forefront. She's always wanted to be behind. She's a producer. She's an executive producer, and she's always been the woman she's like the person you want on board. And I think she's the best person for the job, because she's never going to be the one she is in charge, but she's hiring the right people, and like, she will fire the people that aren't right, and you can see that for a fact.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say
I mean, Kevin Feige, he does great interviews, and he looks like he's a man, he's a nerd, but then he's made some bad mistakes, man. He's not the guy you think he is. He is good at what he's doing, but he's got people behind him. I mean, he's listening to the Marvel people. That's the thing, and she's listening to. She's the one who kept Dave Filoni on, because he did Clone Wars, the series, and she could easily go because you're part of the old crew, but she kept him on, and he's like an advisor now, from what I can know. So I think she is doing a really good job, but she is getting a lot of flack, which I don't really understand why she's getting such flack for it. Because fair enough, she hasn't got the nerdy chops, but she is an amazing producer, and the things she's done, like, you read the list and it'll make your eyes weep, because what woman or what man has done that with such consistency over the years? And you haven't heard her name, because until now she's been doing all this and you don't know anything about her. I'm getting quite emotional. But I do really like the way she's doing it, because she said in an interview she wanted to have a mixed group of people, like male, female, different races, different castes, different cultures. It's all intermixed, like, it's not just one thing. And she does listen to people, that's the thing. And I think Kevin Feige, he probably does listen to people, but that's a universe that actually has a lot behind it, like the Marvel comics. There's so many of them, so he's cherry picking everything. Yeah, he's made some bad mistakes.
Can I just add something as well about the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Since Iron Man and the introduction of trying to get the Avengers together, there's always been this aim, and that's been Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
So there's always been this goal at the end of the tunnel. The thing about about Star Wars is that they're doing two different things. They're doing the main trilogy, and then they're doing all the side projects. So, quality-wise, they are going to be different. It's not going to be as consistent, because there isn't that common goal at the end of it.
I mean, asking you guys, do you know any other universe like Star Wars that has this same universe? Like, can anyone name anything?
Star Trek.
Yeah, but that's like, ugh. Because
what?
they rebooted.
Fandom, that's all.
No, but they've rebooted themselves and gone, we're ignore this. Okay, we can't do any more with this sort of universe of Star Trek. We're going to make it go in an alternative universe. Everyone's young and pretty and hot. These are the hot actors we're going to use. Boom. And it's just, what are they doing? Because they don't know really, they don't have a goal. Because, like, what was it, Into Darkness? No, it's not like Rafa Khan. Yes, it is. You kept saying it's not like Rafa Khan, and we're like, it's Rafa Khan. Then they have Discovery. Oh, this is it's all gonna relate. No, it's not. You just made this up. This isn't even in the storyline of the timeline. So they're making up as they go along. I mean, it's got nerds up in arms, but they're just happy that Star Trek's still out there. This is
yeah, but do you not think Star Wars is making it up as it goes along? Being
Yes.
Rian Johnson threw out everything that J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan had set up, and basically threw it out, and made his own film,
And in turn,
like an independent filmmaker.
Set up for episode 9 as well.
Yeah. Admittedly, like, they're cherry picking all the was it the Legend Universe, the expanded universe, now Legend. They're cherry picking everything. Like, Kylo Ren was Raven.
Oh, Darth Raven.
Darth Raven.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, he's this and she's this person. But they are cherry picking whatever they want, which is, it's got fans up in arms, but then fans are fine. But it is really hard to sort of measure Star Wars against anything else, because there isn't anything else quite like it. Like, come on, face it, they said we're finished making Star Wars films for the prequels. Now they started making them again, and they are making up as they go along. Fair enough, and you can say it's a marketing spin thing, but I think they're doing quite a good job with it at the moment. Like, I have complete faith in them. mean, I don't know what Rian Johnson's going to do with the new trilogy he's doing and how the new Solo film's going to do. And if they do the new Obi-Wan Kenobi film, Ben Kenobi.
Well, I mean, it is a fact that the last 3 projects have, had director changes during them. You know, we've had this with Rogue One. We've had it with Solo, and I'm not sure but wasn't Colin Trevorrow originally attached to this before Rian Johnson, or have I got that wrong?
No, it was episode 9.
Yeah.
Oh, it was 9. Okay, but So
have you had issues with the changes though?
Well, okay. To sort of come back to what James said, and I find this quite telling in myself is I've seen The Last Jedi twice. Okay. And I've not had. I mean, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the Blu-ray because there's deleted scenes and commentaries and all sorts of stuff on it, which I want to dig into. But I've had no desire to watch it again. In fact, the second time I watched it, I really struggled with it. Right, Force Awakens I saw 5 times at the cinema. Now, I've tonally. I do have my problems with it. I don't hate it. I'm definitely not. In fact, people on social media, it's terrible. I mean, those haters, there seems to be some sort of rant every day, and I just don't subscribe to that because I don't have the time to watch and keep up with all that stuff in the first place. But also, those people are not, that's a really bad energy. And, there's some horrible things being said about Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, which I don't agree with, because I respect them for what they do. Having said that, though, I do have issues with Last Jedi. And I think I'm trying to look at it logically as to what the problem is. And I think part of the problem is no plan. The fact that JJ and Lawrence Kasdan had set up the story line to continue. I don't know how much of that was thrown out or what, but I think this is part of the problem. It feels to me very disjointed so far, but then maybe we'll get like a Return of the Jedi and at the end, everything will get explained because Dan's point about the whole, nobody believing that, or not everybody believing that Darth Vader was Luke's father. I remember that was what was so great about it when I was at school. Is in the schoolyard we'd be having conversations where half the kids thought that he was telling the truth and half thought he wasn't. And that's a good point that we didn't know all the answers until the 3rd film. So hopefully JJ is now on the next one going to give us all the answers, I guess. But it didn't have the watch appeal that I was hoping it would have, and I'm sad about that because I want to love everything because it's Star Wars, but I actually prefer Rebels over the latest film.
How many people have actually watched Rebels here, like the actual series?
The first 3 seasons, yes. I've not seen the latest season yet.
Have you guys in America seen it?
Various episodes, but not the whole thing.
What do you think of it? Because, I spoiled myself. I actually know what's happened in the last series and I can't tell Simon. But it was
no spoilers.
No,
no spoilers.
When you think of it, they've laid the characters out so much better than even the original Star Wars did. You know them more better. And it's so much more fluid. And it's like, that's a testament to Dave Filoni about how he's done that. And in a way you can say that the main character, Ezra, is like, I like him more than Luke Skywalker. He's so less whiny. Because he grows and you see the growth and you see it happening. And it's like, I wish they could do that with Star Wars, but they're so segmented now where they don't know really what to do. Like they say they want to make a Luke Skywalker solo film. I don't know if that will happen. But it's just, how can you do any more with these singular characters? Like they want a Luke Skywalker film, they want a Princess Leia film, and they want a Chewbacca film. They want a Lando Calrissian film. They want, Ewok film.
Ewok. Well, we've had 2 of those.
And they want a Boba Fett film.
Yeah, they want to milk it for everything they can, basically.
Well, speaking of the animated series, Filoni, I mean, certainly captured the spirit of Star Wars, I thought, in the Rebels, but he also captured it in Clone Wars, I thought.
Yeah.
More so than
towards the end, because I felt
more
at the
than
end.
the prequels did.
Yeah, because in the end of Clone Wars, when it got a bit more darker, it really felt like this is what you wanted the actual Revenge of the Sith to be, because you felt because you gradually saw him fall from grace, and he had this relationship with Ahsoka, and like he just seemed like a twat in the other films, and now he was a real character, and you can
exactly.
see, yeah, and like watching that you can think, yeah, I want to was it Obi-Wan Kenobi story, because you could see he might have gone out and done some more stuff with Bail Organa. Who knows?
Well, that episode with Ahsoka fighting Darth Vader and Rebels was incredible.
Yeah.
I think it was the end of the third season. Is that right?
Second season.
Or second season. Okay, yeah, that was just such a great episode.
Agreed.
You've not seen it yet when Darth Maul fights Obi-Wan Kenobi, because it's really short, but it's done really well, and they end Darth Maul. Sorry, spoiler. You see it come full circle. Like you see what happened to him in the Clone Wars and how he got his legs back. Woohoo! You saw his character suddenly after all these years of hatred. That was it. And I thought that was really well done. Because you look at the ending of Darth Vader. Yeah, that was it. Like he saved his son. That was it. He didn't say sorry for shit, and that was it.
No, I mean this is my point exactly. Dave Filoni, there's no doubt about it, has done him and his team have done an absolutely amazing job with, first Clone Wars and now Rebels, right?
But can you imagine being in charge of all of Star Wars? I couldn't imagine a bigger nightmare. I mean, I was a manager in a coffee shop once, and that was stressful enough. I don't want to be in charge of everything else like that. Because imagine everything you've got to think about, and you have to appease, and you have to get right. I know Kathleen Turner gets a lot of shtick because, Rey's a female lead character where, is there so many female lead characters because she's there, like Jen Erso, female lead character. And it's like, there's too many women in it now.
Yeah, I have no problem with the diverse new, cast and, I'm all for equality and all that stuff. That's actually not my, I was more upset with the way Luke was handled in Last Jedi. But again, this is the the kid in me that loves Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Princess Leia. Obviously the legacy characters. I mean, I don't know, James. Have you got any more thoughts on that or anything more you want to say about that?
I prepared more on where Star Wars is going. I wasn't really prepared much to talk about Last Jedi specifically.
Okay. Oh, well, let's get on to that.
Did anyone read the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic comics and books?
Yes.
Do you think they'll ever make that into... Because, they've canonised a lot of things. They've left a lot of things ambiguous. Because I'd love to see a film about the Old Republic and the Knights of Badidar.
Well, if Disney get their way, we will.
Well, that's what I think the Dave Filoni argument would go in well, because he seems to, the people that he picks from the legends, like Thrawn and other characters, he does a good job picking the people that that really are important to the series.
Come on, is he going to turn into George Lucas and just turn into everyone's going to be a yes man? Because I think where he is now, he's so suitable. Because I could Google it now, but I don't know him doing any feature films. I mean, he's done a lot of the the series and stuff, but has he done a feature film?
No, I don't think so.
Not as far as I'm aware, no. Unless you cast the Clone Wars as a feature film.
Unlike George Lucas, he'll have somebody to answer to, just like Kathleen Kennedy does now. So that's one big difference that everybody's going to have after George Lucas.
I know he's an advisor for a lot of things, because he's got a lot of ideas, a lot of amazing ideas, which I think that's a role he's very suitable for. I don't know if he does a feature film, we don't know how many more feature films they're going to do. They could do 20, 25 more. Anything's possible.
But so James, what was your thoughts on where Star Wars is going? I'm curious to know.
Okay, well, a few things. It's kind of like a few puzzle pieces that seem to be forming a different picture.
Right.
And first one is how fast Solo is coming out, and I'm wondering if the timing is going to hurt it, because I feel like I'm in the trash compactor with Last Jedi on one side and Solo on the other side. And I mean, here we are, doing this podcast for the release of the Blu-ray when 2 months from now Solo comes out. I wonder if, like, if casual viewers are going to be like, oh, a Star Wars movie, wasn't there just a Star Wars movie? Isn't it, and get confused and not want to see it, or think it's they've already seen it or whatever. So I'm wondering if the closeness of this is going to hurt it. Although there's another section of people saying it's intentional, that there's that other side that says Solo is so bad that they almost want to bury it on purpose. But I find that one hard to believe.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they want to make as much money as possible. So burying it in the summer season doesn't seem like a good place. I must admit, I'm with you on the release date. The one thing I was enjoying about the release schedule they had so far was that, every Christmas you had a Star Wars film to look forward to. So that for Solo to be coming out so soon, it's like, yeah,
agreed.
And wasn't it supposed to be like ever since Phantom Menace or Force Awakens, the original intention was May, and then they keep getting pushed back. But now we already heard Episode 9's pushed back to December. So why not just leave Solo until December? Like, why try to, I mean, they just finished reshoots last month. Why rush this thing out? Why not say, okay, as everybody knows, we had a big shakeup here. We have to delay it. It's going to come out around Christmas. It just, seems odd to me.
No, I agree. I would prefer to have it for Christmas, actually.
Well, I think the thing is that they're doing it in with the calendar of the Marvel films now, aren't they? Because it seems to be like
multiple Marvel films come out a year, so
yeah.
I mean,
but I think that they're trying to sort of get that same rhythm going, aren't they? They don't want to muck up, because let's face it, it's connected with Disney. Star Wars and Marvel, they're connected, so every bit in the calendar has to be different. So they when they do the calendar for the year, when they do their Disney comic whatever thing, they show you the calendar for the years and it's chocker. So to fit everything in, sometimes they've got to squeeze it in and finish it quickly, or they've got to lengthen it out. I mean, I don't know how they operate and how the marketing schemes work, because what the big film this year is Infinity War, so they can never compete with that.
Does anyone else find it interesting that out of all the announcements they've been making so far, the one announcement they haven't made is what movie is coming after Episode 9? I mean, Bob Iger is already on record saying a Star Wars movie is coming out once per year until until like at the 2030s.
Like 10 years, or something.
Yeah. So so why haven't we heard anything about the next movie yet? I mean, they've announced Rogue One way in advance. They announced Solo way in advance. We haven't heard anything about this. What follows Episode 9?
Yeah, but I'm making the assumption it's going to be the Rian Johnson sort of trilogy that he's doing, because he's making his own trilogy and they're starting filming, I think, probably May. But
initially it was supposed to be Saga Anthology. So if Rian Johnson's comes out, but I'm still not 100%, I'm still not positive that that's actually coming out, because again, it's funny how they made an announcement saying, hey, we're starting, even though it was a non-announcement that happened just in time for, the Blu-ray release. As I said last time, the announcement like, hey, we're giving Rian Johnson his own trilogy was just in time for the Last Jedi theatrical release. And you'll see there's tons of videos saying, wow, if they're already giving him his own trilogy, this must be good. So I'm convinced that that's the reason they made the initial announcement. I'm convinced that that's why they're making this non-announcement now. Like, hey, we're starting. Oh, with what? Oh, I guess writing a script, maybe. Like, who knows?
Yeah, but he was recently at the Empire Awards and he won an award there. And he said, "Well, I'm gonna have a little break now, and then I'm gonna go start on my next project, and that's gonna be my next big thing for the few years." And he's not gonna reveal everything because it's all probably gonna be sorted out. I mean, because that's gonna be after the next Star Wars film. And it might be taking place after in a different universe. I mean, we don't know what they're doing, but And as far as I know and what I read, it's still going ahead, but then they're very cloak and dagger about it, aren't they, really? I mean... Yeah. And I'm kind of glad about that.
I believe that Rian Johnson won once it's actually in production.
Yeah. I mean, from what I read, it's definitely going ahead, but you never know too much about things that are going forward anyway.
Yeah, I mean, here's one of the things I'm wondering about the Rian Johnson thing is that he was going on Twitter all over the place, fighting the fans about Last Jedi, which, okay, I mean, if that's what he wants to do, fine, but I think it helped to add bad taste in people's mouths.
He wasn't fighting on Twitter,
right
he was defending it.
Whatever,
you see the things he's writing, it's just... I mean, come on, if someone shits on your work, you're gonna not take it, aren't you? He wasn't fighting. I think he was belittling them from their stupidity, and Mark Hamill had his back.
Yeah, but some of the stuff was legitimate.
Oh,
they
really?
ignored the legitimate stuff, and they focus on the nonsense. Okay, you want to focus on the nonsense, fine, but then reply to the legitimate reasons as well.
Well, like there was one tweet, I mean, I can't remember when it was, but someone was picking at him, and he said, "Well, I'm making films. What are you doing in your basement?" And I thought, yes, that was a good comeback. At the end of the day, it was
recording a podcast.
Yeah.
That is a very good comeback, actually.
Yeah.
I like that.
I know Kathleen Kennedy said that she is going to have a female director, and I was thinking about it today. Like, it's really hard. The only one recently that's actually had a female director directing any kind of, superhero science fiction film was the female director from Wonder Woman. And isn't it?
Yeah, Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, there isn't
Great
many
job.
women that are out there doing that. And I remember, was it Natalie Portman? She's trying to spearhead a lot of female directors, and there was that film Jane's Got a Gun.
Yeah.
She spearheaded this female director, and the female director had a panic attack and just had a breakdown and couldn't do it because there was too much pressure on her. I was thinking, as a female director, imagine you've got to be in charge of all this and doing this and doing this. Because, like, female directors, let's face it, bar the whole Wonder Woman, female directors like Greta Gerwig, female director, all like fluffy films, funny films, relatable films. You don't have the big bombastic films, female directors doing it, really.
Well, you're forgetting about Bigelow.
Yeah, Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah, she does all the big bombastic films. If anything, she does the sort of macho films.
But she's not. She's like the only one then that I know.
Remember Mimi Letter? She used to do those as well. She did like The Peacemaker and
The Peacemaker.
Deep Impact.
Oh god.
I mean, they were action movies.
Yeah,
They were.
But it's been a while that there has been any sort of female directors doing anything like that, and I find that really quite tragic. And I think that there isn't any female directors out there that I would want to do a Star Wars film that wouldn't be too fluffy.
I don't know. I kind of I disagree with you. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of female directors out there as well as male directors who would love to give it a go.
Yeah.
You are right. It would be a lot of pressure because there's a lot riding on it. I mean, think about it. The budget for the original Star Wars probably covers the catering on these films now.
For one day.
Well, no, not for one day, but maybe for the whole shoot. So the pressure of creating something that is going to make money is there. And Disney, as much as they're letting their directors do what they kind of want, they are then, when they see it, kind of then going, right, we need to make these changes. And we saw that with Rogue One. We don't know what the original cut is, and I guess we never will. As much as we'd love to see it, because when it was announced that it was going to be like a war film, that it was going to be from the point of view of these grunts, you thought, oh wow, this is going to be great. It's going to be like a Full Metal Jacket in space. I mean, for the fact that they used the Full Metal Jacket poster as promotional for Rogue One, but then it became more of a heist film. And so, there is that going on. But I think a female director, I think it'd be a great opportunity for them.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I don't think the gender really matters as long as it's whoever's directing it. stays true to what Star Wars is, and you know, and the creatives behind it and the writers and all that kind of have some sort of you know, voice in that. But the dots need to be connected, and the tone needs to be maintained. And I think, you know, I don't know. For me, episode 9 has got a little bit of course correcting to do to get there. But you know, we're not there yet, are we?
Last Jedi, it did nothing you wanted. I mean, you could sort of might have made you sit there and go, what? But it did nothing you expected. Like when you saw Snoke being killed, you're like, you what? But then, it's like I've said this before, you now have like a fully rounded baddie that is, you know, he's not the best baddie, but you're seeing him be created more so. But he's not, you know, we don't know what he's going to do next, which is really quite interesting because you never saw that with Darth Vader. He went from whine little kid to go, no, and then he saw Darth Vader.
Totally agree. I totally agree with that. It seems like this is kind of a redo of the Darth Vader story, in a sense, but way better, as far as the complications with the character.
Yeah.
I must admit, I'm kind of worried about episode 9 because, as you said, Keith, about there's going to be a lot of course correcting done in it. I think,
and Abrams isn't. I'm sorry, Abrams isn't known for wrapping things up well either.
Yeah,
I've seen a really funny meme. It's a picture of Kathleen Kennedy. I think it's like at one of their shows when she's shaking his hand, and they've memed it and saying, "It's your shit to sort out now." And she's shaking his hand, and someone put words below it like he's got to fix it all together. Which I think that's kind of not J.J. Abrams' thing, because he's what was it? Cloverfield. We don't know what's going on with that at the moment.
Oh, the Cloverfield films.
Yeah. So you had Cloverfield, you had 10 Cloverfield Lane, then Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. And you think, it wouldn't be that hard to make it connect, but they've really messed it up.
Well, the problem was connecting it.
Yeah.
They should have been just separate stories.
Mm. Well, like for a science fiction film. Yeah. For a science fiction film, you thought, there's one thing you got to do. You got to make the baddies real and make people real. And they didn't. They've not. They've just not. I thought that's the easiest thing to do in science fiction. You just make that happen. But no.
What I wanted to say was that I do feel like what was set up by Rian Johnson is going to be undone.
Mm.
And I think that's going to be a shame because I quite liked where he left it, you know. And
How do you mean undone?
Well, because you know, as we said, you know, the stuff that J.J. Abrams was setting up in the first one was thrown out by Rian Johnson, and then the stuff that Rian Johnson wanted for episode 9 has been thrown out by J.J. Abrams. So
Where have you read that?
I have read it.
I haven't read it. I'm argumentative here. No, but we don't know the schematics of what was thrown out and what was kept. I mean, to the day we die, we're never going to sit in these board meetings and see the ideas that were hashed out and then flushed out. So, you mean...
I think we can hazard some good guesses. I mean, for the fact that the whole mystery of Rey's parents was thrown out in episode 8.
And the lightsaber was literally thrown out.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So episode 9, it would be, well, actually, Rey is the child of a Skywalker or a Solo, or, you know...
Well, I think... Daisy Ridley said in an interview, she's sort of gone on record saying, I thought they explained that about her parents. Like, basically... Because they don't explain her parents. That's the explanation. She doesn't have any parents. She was abandoned. That's the only explanation I think you need.
Yeah, I know, but
because you can analyse the whole film and saying, well, she's got a rebel doll she's made by hand. How the hell did she get that? She's on a city that was, you know, where they used to crash land all the broken Death Stars, and, you know, the scavengers used to go and scavenge. It's like she was left for trash, basically.
No, I don't think that's what happened on that planet.
No, because that was a planet that there was a battle.
There was a battle,
but there was
yes.
an original scene on the artwork of the book, which I've got right behind me, like there, where they had a Death Star that was going to crash land into the planet, which was basically going to be like, it's the trash planet.
Oh, right.
But there was a battle there. And there's this whole history of Palpatine having connections there. Is she his granddaughter? Who gives a crap? It's just, there's all this sort of stuff that... Because like, she's actually said, it was all explained. Because it wasn't explained, because you don't need to know. And there was so much pressure on it, like, because you wanted to know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that hasn't been explained. Like, for example, you know, the whole lightsaber thing is just not. That's just been ignored. I mean, that literally has been thrown off the cliff, like he did. You know, so because Naz says in the film beforehand that you know there's a story behind that, and there is obviously, because how the hell did she get it? But whether or not that's going to be in some book or comic probably now. You know, exactly. I mean, I think it's okay to let the director, if it's a side film, if it's one of the anthology films, you know, they're individual films, and I think that's fine. But when it's part of the saga, when it's part of a trilogy, I think that there needs to be some arc and consistency across the films. And, you know, I don't know. I just...
Why do that? Because they didn't have it in the originals or the prequels. So carry on with the theme. There isn't a consistency to it. And you can't name a film that has a trilogy of consistency. Was it Indiana Jones? What was consistent?
Well, they were all individual stories.
He had a hat,
weren't they? Yeah,
but it's there wasn't a continuation of the stories. They were their own individual things. So to say a trilogy should have some lineage and connection that's over, you know,
well, that's the idea of a trilogy. Otherwise, it's just
but I can't.
three standalone
Godfather
films.
How did that connect to each other? There wasn't much of a connection. You say, yes, it's got some of the same characters and the children, the grandchildren, la di da. I can't name for the life of me a trilogy that has this sort of what you want, all these connecting things to it. I mean, they're trying their best, but like I said, you've got a bunch of people that are like, they're watching it too closely, which is, you know, I'm one of them. I probably do watch it too closely, but...
I'm fine, but they shouldn't set up things that are meant to be answered in the next movie if they're not going to take
but then it is a
deal with it
trilogy,
as a standalone story.
Yeah. I mean, let's face the fact, George Lucas didn't make out for Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker to be siblings. I mean, that was...
Exactly.
He can lie for his teeth for it, but come on, there was... In Empire Strikes, there's a deleted scene where it got a little bit freaky. That was like, oh god. And thank God they didn't put that in, but that was just to save time. But he can say whatever he wants, but he did not have this whole universe planned out, whatever he says.
I think he had
the
a lot
essential
of it planned out.
I mean,
not as much as he's made out.
Leia, but he had the essential idea.
Yeah,
Worked
I mean,
out.
a lot
It
was
all in
changed.
the original script, and he had to break that script. That script was impossible to do, so he had to break it into 3 different movies.
But he didn't make Princess Leia to be the sister. Princess Leia.
Correct, that's what we just said.
Yeah.
But the overall story he had in place.
Sorry, I just repeated what you said. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. He definitely has changed the story through the years back then, especially back then. I remember several interviews where he would say, you know, even Darth Vader being the father was something that kind of came up later. That wasn't his initial plan. So, at least that's what I read.
Isn't that just filmmaking?
Yeah.
Isn't that just filmmaking? Because you set out with a plan, but then when you're there shooting it on the day, things change, things happen, ideas come along that improve it. So it is really difficult to have like a concrete plan that everybody sticks to.
Although I do think Keith's idea of a standalone film about Luke Skywalker's lightsaber might be interesting. What do you think?
Yeah.
And start dancing.
That's the next one. That's follows.
It's called The Hand. Some guy on Bespin is like, oh, that's odd. There's a hand. There's a hand sticking out of
There's
the...
a vampire cult eating the midichlorians out of it.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
Have you guys heard any of the announcements for the Star Wars land that's coming?
No.
Yes.
I have mixed feelings about it.
We knew it was going to happen because there's going to be Star Wars on ice soon. I'm ready for that.
Oh yeah,
That's called Hoth, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's called Hoth.
So the thing that sounds interesting is it's going to be a complete Star Wars environment. Like when you step into it, the idea is you're actually in the Star Wars universe. The thing that seems negative and odd about it is you're not going to have actual branded Star Wars merchandise in the Star Wars land, because the reasoning is like, you want to go into the cantina and, see like Star Wars shirts or Star Wars toys. So that's not going to be here, but they'll have like odd toys, like these like crafted like wicker X-wings and TIE fighters and stuff. Like they were made like on some kind of like poor planet or something. And so it seems kind of weird because I would think if you go to a Star Wars land.
Sounds like they need to have another meeting about that, don't they?
You'll get the branded stuff on the way out in the gift shop once you've left the land.
It's weird that there's nothing in the land.
Mm-hmm.
That's good then.
Yeah, Secret Cinema was like that.
I agree, but I think it's going to go against people's expectations. I expect within a couple of years we're going to see branded stuff inside Star Wars land.
Yeah, I must admit, a couple of years back, before the new trilogy, I did the Secret Cinema here in London, which was a Star Wars themed one. And you know what? It was so nice because the first thing you had to do was relinquish your smartphone on the way in. That's part of the rules of it. You had to dress a certain way and you had to relinquish all your... And do you know, it was so liberating because you weren't there thinking, oh God, I got to get a picture of that. Oh, get a picture of me with this. Oh, look, there's an R2 unit. Quick, let's get a picture of that. You were just not worrying about any of that and going along with it. And it was so well done. I mean, the cantina, I wanted to cry. It made the child in me just, it was perfect. It was perfect. And you know what? I thought to myself, when I got to the end, I thought that was so refreshing and it was so nice that everybody wasn't on their bloody smartphones taking videos and selfies and God knows what. It was really nice that, you could just become part of the world and go in there. And I'm sure probably that's what Disney have in mind. But of course, James, even though you'll be able to buy the in-world toys while you're in the world, I bet you as soon as you get out of the Disney park and, to the gates, there will be a branded store as well.
Yeah, as soon as you step out of the land.
Exactly.
Yeah. We also have this 3D Star Wars experience. Have you heard about this?
Yes, we're getting that as well, I believe. Yeah. Is this with the virtual reality one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I had the fortune of doing that. It was pretty awesome. Shooting stormtroopers. Oh, yeah, totally.
So there you go. That can be the Star Wars we all want in our head, literally.
Now,
yeah.
One thing that I did think about, the difference between Star Wars now and Star Wars when we were kids is, well, for one thing, we only had a movie every 3 years, but we also had almost nothing but toys in the meantime to fill that space and create our own stories and create our own, almost like I think it was more of active participation with Star Wars, where it seems like these days it's more like passive. Like I think video games might be the most active participation you get. Even toys, most of them stay in cases these days. So I think that probably has a lot to do with Star Wars when we were kids versus how people experience Star Wars today.
I think that's one of the problems with kind of this barrage of Star Wars films, just like the MCU. It's just like we're getting so many of these that they don't have the same gravitas that they used to have for us, because like you said, we had them every 3 years, and then in between you're just kind of imagining what's going to come next and playing with your toys and hoping for the next one to come. I mean, the 10-year-old inside of me, if I knew I was going to get a Star Wars every year, I would have been overjoyed. But as an adult, it just doesn't seem like, it seems like it's like too much of a good thing there can be too much of a good thing, each one just has less and less impact, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, you're diluting it the whole time. The more there is, the more diluted it gets. And whoever thought that having too much would be a problem?
I know.
But I mean, when we were kids, we were getting the comics and stuff, and like James said, playing with the figures and just wanting more and more and more of it. And the kids of today have got that. In abundance.
The toys are sitting on the shelves now.
Do you guys talk to any kids or anything? Do you know any kids? I know kids that are still starving for toys like that.
Yeah, I have 2 kids, so yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, production, they're making so much that they can't push it out.
Yeah, but I don't know many kids that are like, own everything, and they don't want everything, and we never wanted everything when we were kids. I mean, by the fact we couldn't afford it. I mean, the toys have been the main thing that made Star Wars such an success story. I mean, yeah, the film made a lot of money.
Yeah, the toys made more.
Yeah, they made that made George Lucas get more money to do what he wanted and be what he is. I mean, they can never repeat it. That's the sad fact. Like, they can never repeat the toy history they've done. I mean, even the toys nowadays. I mean, kids play with toys, but not as much as they did, because a lot of them were on computer games, which is kind of sad.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's exactly what they are.
I mean, the other thing about Star Wars now is they've got rid of the Legends universe and they're cherry picking what they want, but they're not releasing as many books as they did a year. I think so. They're releasing books like Canto Bight and the Bloodline trilogy, and what was the other trilogy they've done recently? It was the one that took place afterwards. My brain's just gone for it, but yeah, they're not being as as releasing as much books because they're being very strict with the history now. Which I think that's nice, but then
Pablo
it's kind of
Delgado,
like
or whatever his
starving
name is.
what you want to know.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it did get to a point where there was so many books, you just couldn't read them all.
Yeah, but the thing is, because they're making up the history as they go on, and they want the timeline to fix, and they don't want to give too much away, and yeah, because where the other ones, they basically do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
To a degree.
But then there was a whole gap between films. I mean, that the books filled in what the films, because there was no films being made at that point when a lot of the books came out.
Yeah, it's like Shadow of the Empire they did that in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. They made a book, they made a computer game, they made a graphic novel.
Yeah.
They even did make toys.
Yes,
which
they did.
Were for grown-ups, let's be fair. Just play with it. But yeah, I mean, I can say for the moment they're not doing as much as they were, but then they're doing more than they were. So I don't think they have a plan, but then you can't knock them for that, because the way the world works nowadays, everything is so immediate, and everything's kind of fad related. It's like they've got all these little games on your phone for Star Wars, and you played them. I think they're terrible. Because it's just, and that Battlefront game where, was that controversy where you had to buy things and pay money for them?
The loot boxes.
Yeah. And everyone was like really pissed off with that, because that was like, well, that's not fair. You can't do things without paying money for it. So apparently they scrapped that now. They've got rid of it.
I don't know. I don't think they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I think it affected sales of the games because a lot of people weren't buying it. But
but it was. I mean, seeing how it was done, the stories they had with it, it looked bloody good.
Well, the problem is that it comes. Battlefront 2 comes from a game that they made like over 20 years ago, or when the prequels came out, which was far better. You could jump into ships, you could battle in the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. It was a lot more immersive. You have different ways of playing it, but this one, it just seemed to be multiplayer. There wasn't really a solo game to it. They did it for the second one, but again, it wasn't. You could complete it in a couple of hours. And so, that kind of diluted the gameplay. Apart from the multiplayer, if that's your thing, it's great. But if it's not, then, the game didn't have longevity. You only play it for a short while, and then, when another game comes along, you drop it, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's back to that active versus passive entertainment, isn't it? And I still think that there is the need out there for both. Sometimes, yes, it's nice to be an active participant in something, but at the same time, I love nothing more as a movie goer and a TV watcher and whatever than to sit down and be told a story, and watch this happen in front of me and follow its narrative. And it's funny the whole social media thing. I mean, here we are. Umpteenth podcast on Star Wars, but I've seen a lot of stuff that I've instantly turned off or gone away from, because I see a lot of stuff about social justice warriors and man babies and all of these sort of societal things coming into it, which I guess happens. But the thing is, I think if you're looking at something like, James Bond or even Star Trek in terms of fantasy, in terms of a reflecting society, those things are fine. But with Star Wars, because it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I just want Star Wars to reflect Star Wars, really, and all of these other things to not be such a big deal, if you know what I mean. And if I'm getting that across right, I'm not sure if I am. But I see an awful lot of stuff online about this, and it just turns me off. And some of it's by Star Wars fans, and some of it's by non-Star Wars fans. But there's a hell of a lot of talk out there, and I think you've just got to filter it. Otherwise, you'll go insane with this stuff.
That's true of social media.
Yeah,
it is. But I mean, do you guys agree with this whole, Star Wars must reflect society?
No, not at all.
Because it's a fantasy, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you do realise that was always done in the. More so in the prequel films. Like people saying, what George Lucas did with the prequel films, he set up Palpatine as almost a figurehead of what Trump's doing. Yes, this is what people are saying now because there's nothing else to go. And I read this on Friday. It was like a trending thing. I'm like, okay, that's a bit ambiguous. But I mean, it's intriguing because there's always been things there. I mean, the film was made in the 70s and it was kind of like, someone said it was a bit like for the hippies, peace. Yeah, we're trying to fight the big empire, peace. That is what I read. Like this is what, because it was from the 70s film. It was like a peace film, wasn't it? Like the little guys,
yeah,
I guess. Guys.
Yeah,
the Vietnam War. This is what people have read into it. So there's always been themes and trends with it. But I just think nowadays people are more eloquent to sort of read into it and how the directors approach it, and they've got more time. Like, face it, the films are longer now. How long was the original Star Wars? What?
2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So now it's like long. It's like almost. The Last Jedi was going to be 3 hours and 5 minutes if Rian Johnson hadn't cut it down.
Mm.
So they've got bigger and they've got more so, and there's a bigger story to tell.
Well, Last Jedi is the only one that's been that long. The others have all been around the 2 hour mark.
Mm.
I mean, The Force Awakens was 2 hours 10 minutes.
So the shortest one was Return of the Jedi, wasn't it? I think that was the shortest film of all of them.
Okay, but not short by much.
Yeah, but of all the films, because they were trying to pack it up and go. Yeah.
But I think it's quite clear because when George Lucas was making Star Wars, he had come off the back of writing Apocalypse Now, so Vietnam was very much on his mind.
Yeah,
so,
everyone's mind. Really.
Yeah, so the idea of a group of ill-equipped rebels going up against a big industrial machine was very much there and winning. But then that's just part of it. I mean, it's a fantasy, it's the hero's journey, it's a Western, it's sci-fi, it's Kira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Totally.
There is so many influences on it.
Just makes you wonder what he was thinking when
time.
he made the Ewoks. What did they represent?
Toys.
Yeah. Cuddly toys.
No, I mean, he was always obviously reflecting Joseph Campbell, in his work back then, and that was fine. But I don't know. I don't know whether it's just because when I was a kid, I never thought about these things, and now as an adult, we're bombarded by it as well with everybody's voices out there. I mean, Donald Trump, he's Biff, right? From
Yes.
from Back to the Future too, right? Biff Tannen.
Walk like a tree and leave.
Dan, I want to ask you about something that you said right at the beginning of the podcast, and I didn't quite understand what you meant, but you were saying, it was either you or James was saying something about one of the problems you had with Last Jedi was it was something to do with Battlestar Galactica, and I'm just trying to make the connection. What was that?
James said that. Actually.
It was James. Sorry.
Yeah.
That first Battlestar Galactica miniseries.
The miniseries.
I was disappointed because all the big action was happening off screen.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seemed like that was happening with Rey. A lot of her stuff was happening off screen.
But But with BSG, boy, they made up for it after that miniseries. But yes, I know exactly what you mean. Ron Moore so didn't want to do the Glenn Larson film that he went completely the opposite with it. But yes, episode the first episode of the series, 33, one of the best hours of television out there ever, I think. But hey, that's a whole nother podcast which we've done.
Haven't you done that?
There you go.
No, we haven't done it yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, any other? I mean, I don't know whether we're in disagreement or agreement. Really, I think everybody's made really valid points.
Yeah.
As usual, I'm kind of on the fence, which is not unlike me at all. But I do feel rather torn on my feelings about it and where it's going. But at the same time, I'm excited as well. So
let me ask this question: how about, because this is where I think we all agree. If they were to say tomorrow that they weren't making another Star Wars thing, would we be sad or happy?
I'd be sad.
Sad.
Because let's face it, we all
I'd
want to
be
see the next
indifferent.
one and know what happens, don't we?
Yeah.
Wherever you're sitting on whatever part of the fence and however you're sitting, you do want to know what happened because, we don't like things being unconcluded. We want to find out, and then you want to argue about that point, whether it worked. Because that's the thing. You maybe you're not invested in the characters as much as you were with the original characters, but you do want to see where the story arc is going, don't you? Because that was the thing.
Not particularly.
James, your cold black heart.
Yeah. What?
Really?
James, will you be indifferent if we don't get a conclusion to all these questions?
I mean, I have to see the trailer for episode 9, but the way things are left off, I mean, it felt like the end, like a wrap up. It's like the episode 9 is going to be like the epilogue or something.
Well, the thing is that there's so much they've got to address, like what's happened to Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, now she's gone, and what a lot of people are saying.
Oh, I'm going to make
Yes.
a prediction on that.
What's that?
I got a feeling that Abrams is going to say, oh, she went off on a mission, so Princess Leia is always alive because she was on a mission and didn't actually die.
Really?
That's my prediction.
Quite possible.
That wouldn't surprise me. That'd be awful, but that wouldn't surprise me.
That would be awful. And that's why I'm predicting it.
I think if they try to do like a Tarkin, a CGI character,
Well, they said they won't do that.
yeah, but
Was it the whole?
Yeah.
The whole
that would be terrible.
Yeah, with the whole way the films are going to go. So the Force Awakens was like Han Solo was basically the main old character in it, and then the second one, Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker was the main older character in it, and the third one was all going to be about Princess Leia. So even though she's not in it, I think she's going to be the name said the most. She's going to have the most, influence in the story about Kylo Ren and Rey and the rest of the rebellion. Because, I mean, I hope to God they don't make it like a rehash of a massive battle, and then good versus evil, like with just these little guys. Because, they've got rid of the whole Republic.
I mean, just the way Abrams did a repeat of Wrath of Khan and New Hope.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope they really make it a bit more different because, you've got a bigger empire and there is no one against them because there is no help. I mean, we didn't even know there was like a republic. I mean, what was it, the one line in A New Hope when they're sitting at the table, they mention the Republic, and up till then, you didn't really hear the word Republic, did you? You just heard the rebellion, the rebels.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was talk of the old Republic.
Yeah, but you didn't know there was a new Republic or Republic of any sort.
Well, no, there wasn't. There was the Empire.
Yeah,
The New Republic is what's came after Return of the Jedi.
yeah, and then now that's gone.
That's gone, yeah.
But there was always some sort of seating, which as you saw from, was it Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Chef, Revenge of the Chef,
Revenge of the Chef.
the Chef, where they
Right,
where
that's my sequel.
Yeah.
where they gave ultimate power to Palpatine, but they were still sitting, but no one could challenge him because they gave him all the power.
Well, this is do you remember when Grand Moff Tarkin walks into the meeting room at the Death Star and he says the Empire has dissolved the senators completely, and they're like, how are they going to keep control?
Without the bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly. So
Even that wasn't explained.
but where it was gathered that he'd killed them all.
Yeah.
He dissolved them,
Yeah.
especially probably with his lightning. But the old Republic had been, as Grand Moff Tarkin swept away. So, that the Empire was totally in control.
So same with like the New Order now. So it's just curious
Yeah.
how they're going to end it.
It is. I'm kind of sad. I mean, I agree with our friend Charles de Lauzarica, who's been on, and he said, and I do agree with this totally, it's such a shame that we never got a film where Han, Luke and Leia shared a scene together. That would have been as a swan song to them, moving away from the legacy characters and moving forward with our our diverse new characters. It would have been nice if there had been that swan song, but sadly, because of life circumstances, we're never going to get that now, which is a shame. But I would have liked to have seen Han's memorial as well. Apparently, that is going to be on the 4K and the Blu-ray, but I think that should have been in the film. But then I haven't seen it yet. But I think there should have been some sort of Han memorial in the film. Would have been nice. But...
Yeah, it'd have been better than Poe's crank call.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, that I did hate. I have to admit that I really did hate the crank call.
Oh, well, I really like that.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Because it played up on the character of Hux. Or Hugs.
I thought that, to me, that was trying to be too MCU in its humour. It was too Tony Stark. It didn't belong in the Star Wars universe. And I've said that before, but that's just my opinion. So there you go. Any other points then? While we're, I mean, you guys, the guests, you three, anything. Me and Simon ramble on about this shit all the time, But anything while you've got the airtime, anything that you guys want to say about Star Wars or anything else for that matter.
Do you know much about Ready Player One? Have you read the book or anything?
I've avoided everything about it until I see the film, actually. So, no, I know very little about this. What I don't know is whether I should watch it in 2D or 3D. That's my dilemma at the moment.
Yeah,
okay.
2D.
Okay. And is anything in IMAX in this film or not? Do we know?
I don't know one way or the other.
Okay. No, but yeah, so I know very little about Ready Player One at the moment. I'm interested to see Steven Spielberg go back to doing something sort of fantasy-based, because obviously all his work of late, and it's great, I'm not knocking it, but it's all been kind of, very serious and historical based and telling real stories and things of that nature, these dramas, which are excellent. I mean, I loved The Post. I really enjoyed that. But what I'm saying is it'll be nice to see him go back to the sort of films he was making when we grew up with him, basically. And that's what I feel this could be.
I'm wondering if this is going to mark the end of like the reboots and rehashes and wave of nostalgia we've been on for the last 20 years. Because it looks like, in the trailers anyways, that they jam-pack every last remnant they can into this movie. So I'm wondering if this is going to be like the last of the big kind of nostalgia, rebooting, rehashing type thing.
Yeah, well, that's never going to happen, because nostalgia of something like, people say 15 years ago something came out, that's considered old, and that scares the hell out of me.
Well, I mean, in the sense of people coming up with more new stuff rather than, going, cherry picking all the Marvel stuff, all the DC stuff, going back to the Star Wars. Well, are we going to see anything actually new and fresh at some point?
I wouldn't say by the end of this film, no.
I don't mean like specifically after this film, that's it. But I think we're going to see a decline.
Well,
what's the last film that we saw that was really original?
I just want to say... No, I just want to say, until these big films start losing money, until then, nobody's going to see them. That's when we're going to get the change for more original stuff. I mean, just seeing what happened back in the late 60s with the musicals. When the musicals stopped making money, the studios didn't know what to do, and then started opening their doors to more original stuff because that was making money. That's what it needs. The new stuff make money. The nostalgia stuff doesn't make money. That's what Hollywood understands. It's money. What makes the money?
Yeah, and right now all the new stuff is getting killed at the box office.
Yeah.
Valerian. I don't know. Wrinkle in Time.
I mean,
anything that comes out.
Surprised? Anyone surprised about those?
Well, we're in a lot of change now, because I'm not saying this was the case for all the industry thing, but the whole Weinstein effect of things changing, where the bully factor will hopefully disappear, and there will be the people looking after people. So, you won't, all the films that are from the big wigs, they won't be as prominent as they were. I mean, that's my hope. I mean, it's not just about the female factor of them being looked after, it's everybody looked after, where your film can get made and can get financed and can get put forward. Not because you're stripping someone else or you're being stripped by someone else, sort of thing. Because that's my hope.
Hear. That's very good. Well put, Antonia, and I agree entirely with that. Absolutely.
What we also need is the return of the medium budget film. Because at the moment it's either ultra low budget or it's high budget.
I went to see Steven Soderbergh's latest film, Unsane, and I found that to be a completely effective and disturbing thriller. And it just shows you it doesn't really matter what you shoot on, because he obviously shot that on an iPhone 7. As long as you've got a good story, good acting, and know where to put and when to move the camera, you can tell a standalone, very inspiring, and thrilling story. And I found that film very inspiring. I saw it just the other day.
Camera teacher said you could shoot the thing on toilet paper as long as you got a good story and it's interesting. People are going to watch it.
Or wipe their ass with it.
Yeah. Well, it blows my mind when people say, "Oh, this film's small budget," and you hear how much they had for it, and it's like, that's not small budget.
Well, it was $1.2 million, which obviously to us is like, oh my God, that's not a small, but in Hollywood standards that is. And I was saying to someone the other day, they were saying, well, why did it cost so much? And I said, well, that meant that the actors and crew in that, got properly paid. The locations and whatever would have got paid, and all of the logistical support system around the film would have been paid for, and everybody would have been paid. So $1.2 million doesn't go that far when you're talking, especially when you got named actors and stuff. But the fact that they achieved that on using that technology, just really, I'm a fan of Soderbergh anyway, and we know he's done everything from big budget to medium budget to small budget. But I just sort of thought, my God, the power of technology and the power of the smartphone and the cameras that are out there now, it's just amazing, and it was all about the story. The story worked, and I recommend, seriously, at the other end, if you're tired of superhero movies and big spectacle movies and want to go and see something, intimate but still thrilling, that's my pick for this week, for what it's worth.
Well, aren't the streaming services like Amazon and Netflix the ones buying up the kind of the mid-level movies, or funding those kind of mid $30 million, $40 million movies?
Well, it's like
Totally.
they saved Annihilation, which we've watched and is a really good film.
Yeah, I hear it was released in the theater, and I saw it in the theater. It was really good.
Yeah, well, it was released over here in Europe just on Netflix, and I recommended it to a few people, and they're like, I want to see this on the big screen, because they didn't have faith in Alex Garland because he wouldn't change the plot line or storyline to it, so they sold it onto Netflix to make sure it actually got released. But it didn't make as much money as they wanted, even though it was it big budget or medium budget? Or?
I think it was medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a medium, but it was certainly creepy.
Yeah.
It had some creepy moments.
Very thought-provoking, for sure.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else? Anyone to add?
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
You've scratched your Star Wars itch, have you, James? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you were the instigator here. You wanted to come back on the podcast to talk Star Wars.
Yes.
So I hope you've been able to cover what you wanted.
Last Jedi Star Wars.
Yes, post Last Jedi Star Wars.
I mean, is everyone actually going to go see the next film?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that because you want to find out what happens?
It's because it's a Star Wars movie, and I want to find out what happens.
And are you going to go see
both.
the new Solo film? Because
Of course.
I mean, because they had the other Han Solo stories, the books they had. So they've kind of built up his history a little bit. Because what was he? He was meant to be a prince or something.
Oh God! What, from the Carillion trilogy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't recommend.
No.
No. So I'm kind of wondering how they're going to do that. So
yeah, I'm not going to say I'm not skeptical about it. I'm very skeptical. I mean, Ron Howard is in my opinion a decent filmmaker, so I'm sort of happy with that. What I'm not happy about necessarily is, do I want to see some young guy who's not Harrison Ford, playing Han Solo? It could go one. It could go one way or the other with that. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, do we need a young Han Solo movie? I kind of thought we had that in A New Hope to a certain extent, and but that's just because I'm too old myself now to play Han Solo. So of course, obviously, I'm going to hate anyone younger that does. I'm jesting, but no.
I can imagine that film, Keith. It'd be like, Han, where did this British accent come from?
Yeah. No, I am totally kidding. But what I mean is, I am skeptical. I like to take the piss out myself. You know that. But I am skeptical about the film. But I absolutely will 100% be there to watch it. And I'm sure. I'm sure we'll have a podcast about it. I would put money on that.
No, I was going to say these movies, I mean, just the Star Wars universe in general has been such a part of my life, my entire life, that it's hard to, it would be impossible for me to say I would stay away from any of these movies. I mean, it would have to be I would say it'd have to be a really bad movie, but Phantom Menace that I hated, I saw 5 times in the theater. So. And I hated it every time. I was like, this movie's terrible, but there's got to be something I'm missing here why it's good. It's got to be good somewhere in there. So, it's certainly anything. That's why I say the 10-year-old in me is thrilled that this is going to keep going on for, who knows, maybe 50 years. I mean, if they can help it.
So you're not solving the problem then, Dan, are you?
No, I'm not. See, that's the thing, though. For me, right now, at least, I'm happy with where it is. Right now, I loved Rogue One. I loved Last Jedi, and maybe Solo sucks, but maybe it doesn't. So far for me, I'm actually okay. I'm still okay. It would take a lot to really tear me down.
As long as there isn't a song called Solo Sucks, we'll be all right.
But I read this the other day, because they're going to make a lot more films. Do you think they're going to sort of split the universe where you've got your kiddie films and you've got your adult films? Because I thought that's kind of interesting, but I don't know if that would work. Because when you look at the universe, like you said before, there is a dark element to the universe. That they've got slavery, they've got this, they've got that. I mean, it's like, it would be funny if they did something like, I don't see them doing it, but someone said, wouldn't it be interesting if they tried to do that? So you got your kids film.
Yeah, I mean, they always have done to an extent, haven't they? Because they've had the sort of young adult novels and comics, and then they've also had like the cartoon, animated series.
Because I mean, Disney does make
stuff,
adult films, not like really adult films. But I'm kind of curious if they would ever do that, maybe like 10 years down the line. Because you think there's so much they could do, so much they shouldn't do, so much they might do. I mean, I don't see that happening myself, but reading that, I was thinking that's a possibility for them, because if they think about it and get it, if they do their feedback and people want it, it could happen.
Possibly. I mean, if it all depends if adult films become popular again. If they're making lots of money, then go, oh, well, maybe Star Wars could do one of those.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually show blood for once. Like, oh yeah.
The writers from Game of Thrones were hired to do another trilogy, and people are thinking maybe that's going to be even a darker, more serious thing than what Rian Johnson's doing. I mean, is that maybe there's something?
Were
to
they
that.
confirmed for a trilogy or a series?
My understanding was a trilogy. Was a
okay.
trilogy. Yeah, it was Jon Favreau was doing the TV series, and then those guys were doing a trilogy, and Rian Johnson was doing a trilogy. It was like the principal handing out detention. It's like you want another one? You want another one? Keep it up. Keep it up.
Is the Jon Favreau series definitely confirmed? Is it? I know it was in talks, but I mean, I like what he did with Marvel stuff was good, wasn't it? So
mm-hmm. Yeah, last I heard, it was fairly confirmed. I mean, it's for the new Disney streaming service is where it's going to be on. Is where it's going to be played. Of course,
it is.
Yeah, so you'll have to subscribe.
Of course, you will.
I mean, essentially, I jest, but that's what it's about, isn't it? It's going to be about if it's going to make money for the corporation, then we'll get also we'll have streaming series, we'll have web series, movies, experiences, you name it. Which Star Wars always has been that as well, even when it was Lucas owned. So
and I wonder, like Simon said earlier, when is the tipping point where Star Wars and really probably first the MCU starts to not make money every time they put a movie out? I mean, at what point is that going to happen? I mean, because it just seems like it's never going to happen.
Oh, it's got to. Everything that goes up's got to come down.
It does eventually, yeah, you would think.
Well, I mean, after Infinity War, there's a lot of things that happen in the the comics, but that is like quite explosive. What happens, like Captain America dies, then are they gonna make him come back, and are they gonna go more out in the Garden of the Galaxy universe? Or there's so many things they could do, but and they're cherry picking what they want. So, but I think the most bombastic thing is going to be the Infinity War, and after that, I don't think they're going to do anything as big again. Because this is all the characters for 2 films coming together. Is it 2 films or is it 3 films?
2.
I think it's 2 films, yeah.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't be surprised they try and stretch.
That's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
I mean, they've set up a hell of a lot of characters, across the 18 or 19 films or whatever they've had so far.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be, I'm very excited to see it, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it's going to work, I have to say.
How they balance that many characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And tonally as well, because we've got such differences.
We know they're campaigning for Captain Britain to come back. Did you hear that? They want Captain Britain.
Really?
It's like,
okay.
We need him. Yeah. Everyone's like, who?
Well, when they start running out of sort of the more known characters, then they'll really go for the lesser known ones.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, they really already are starting to do some deep cuts on some of the characters. It just amazes me because the Marvel movies particularly have been very uneven, and they've been generally decent, but they've been not. There've been some that haven't been that great. Like for me, I absolutely hated Iron Man 3, just hated it. but that's me. A lot of people loved it. It made a ton of money, but I keep wondering, like, it seems like they just put Marvel on it. Well, I mean, maybe. And then they put Marvel on it, and it just makes easily $1 billion. It's like, I just don't understand it. Like every side character. So I'm wondering, like with Star Wars. I mean, of course, like you say, Simon, everything must come down at some point. But I'm wondering. I mean, it's been 10 years on the Marvel universe. It's been what, 5 or not quite 4 for the actually not even 3. How many years has it been for the? Gosh, Star Wars has happened so fast. I'm
20.
They got the rights in 2013, didn't they? So, they got the rights in 2013. Started production in 2013. So yeah, they've kind of had it since 2013. Because then they
the first one, Force Awakens, was 2015, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think
so. 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, Rebels was the first thing they pushed out, wasn't it, before the actual film?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it too much of a good thing or not? Who knows?
Eventually.
Who knows?
Only time will tell.
I'm sure if we were making them, we wouldn't be complaining.
Right. No, exactly. If you're seeing all those zeros in your bank account, you'd probably be thrilled too.
Well, yeah. Forgetting the money side, which would be great, but just to actually, do it, and we'd have to be dealing with all the haters as well, because this is the thing, you're not going to please everyone, and I do feel kind of. Even though I don't agree with everything Rian Johnson's done, at the same time, some of the stuff that's being said about him out there is totally unfair. So, and the same with Kathleen Kennedy, totally unfair, some of the stuff that's being said about those guys. But well, it's
like the fact that The Last Jedi won a lot of awards from Empire magazine, which was voted for by people. And I thought that is better than something like the Oscars or BAFTA or, Golden Globes, which are just, the committee, because Empire, even though we moan about it over here, it's still a solid magazine that reviews films, and people did actually vote, because there's a large amount of people that voted for it, and they voted for The Last Jedi. I mean, they gave Mark Hamill a special award for his career, and that was like he's finally getting recognition. You think that's taken a long time, because every nerd knows what he's been doing, like voice wise, he's been the Joker and doing this and doing that, but he's always been there, but he's never got any kind of recognition, which is, really cool. Fair enough they killed him off. Or did they? But, yeah.
We can always come back as a Force ghost.
Yeah, so he's not really gone, I don't think. Because he's being very coy about it. And you think, well, that's telling.
Yeah.
He's still saying he's Finn's dad.
Yes. This podcast is not sponsored by Empire, by the way.
It's great.
There are other magazines out there.
Did Baby Driver win any BAFTAs for editing or sound editing?
I think they gave something to him just by turning up. As Edgar Wright, oh, here's something.
Yeah, I should know the answer to that, shouldn't I?
I think he got something.
I couldn't believe Dunkirk won all those categories in the Oscars, and Baby Driver didn't win any of those, especially either sound editing or even just editing. I mean,
yeah.
To me, that was the whole movie was editing.
I agree. Baby Driver is a fantastic movie on many respects, but also Baby Driver unfortunately had a bit of a cloud over it because of other things in life, which we won't go into.
I was going to say.
I mean, I've not seen Baby Driver, and I don't know anyone that's recommended it to me. I mean, I think
it's very enjoyable,
and she hadn't seen it. It's not a film that sort of, anyone I know personally that sort of recommended it. I don't know why that is.
I would recommend it. It's got a great soundtrack. The film is a lot of fun, and it is a total return to real stunt work driving. In the film.
I mean, I'm put off by it because it seems like a real boys' film. That's just me being a girl. I don't mind boys' film, but I cherry pick what I want.
It's got a strong female character in it.
It does, yeah.
How do you describe strong though? Because I have a different idea of what I think is strong. Come on, I'm a girl. I'm gonna be. I don't want someone pretty and being sarcastic. That you're gonna have.
Maybe not then.
Yeah. There we go.
She didn't punch anybody in the face, I guess.
It's not. She wasn't Wonder Woman.
But
but she didn't seem like a damsel in distress either. So
no, exactly. She had agency. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So,
yes.
She was a waitress. Cliche.
She was the waitress.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Because that's all we do.
No, she owned the restaurant. I don't know.
Oh dear. Yes.
All right. I think that's a good place to end it. I don't think
we've definitely got off of Star Wars, haven't we?
So, guys, where can we find you on social media or websites, or is there anything you want to promote?
Not for me, thanks.
Okay.
James is already in Star Wars land. He's buggered off. He's like, right, I'm doing my own thing.
And believe it or not, I am actually not on social media. No Facebook, no Twitter, nothing. So I do have some stuff on YouTube. I believe I still have some stuff on YouTube under Cinedan 1000. And Keith, believe it or not, we're about a year away from the 25th anniversary of Jack Savage.
Good Lord.
And,
okay.
And so that was a thing I made with my friends years ago. So we're gonna do like a viewing party kind of thing. But I don't know if you remember, Keith, but you were actually in a fake making of documentary for something down the road of that for Jack Sarvage. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh my God! The amount of stuff I've done that I've forgotten is unbelievable. So no doubt that's quite embarrassing.
Yes, there you go. Otherwise, you could send a carrier pigeon, perhaps, and send a note.
All the way across the Atlantic, yeah. Well, I mean, Dan, would you like to come back for future podcasts with us? Because it's been great to have you on.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that our listeners will hear you again at some point in the future then.
Cool.
Keith, where can we find your work?
Okay, well, if you go to YouTube and put in British Eyles, that's Eyles, as in my last name, you can find short films that I've made on there. Or if you put my name into IMDb, you can see other projects that I've worked on.
You can find my work on at independentrunnings.com. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and all good podcast providers. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Movie Heaven, Movie Hell. And please leave us a rating and review. Also, if you want to follow Antonia, you can find her on Twitter at StarCharmer82.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, all of our guests. It's been great to have a round table type, podcast with all of you guys and some interesting stuff. So thank you all for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yes, and thank you, and thank you to the listener for joining us. And I hope you join us for the next episode of Movie Heaven, Movie Hell.
Yay!